Okay.
Okay, welcome back. This is the second episode of Flashpoint. I got it right, despite the ganja. Flashpoint. And we need Flashpoint because what we do is we focus on something that's important. We're remembering what's happening in Palestine. It's important, but what's also happening in Africa is important. And Kunle Williams, who is an esteemed lawyer from Nigeria, is going to talk to us about what we title Rwanda is becoming the next Israel. So Kunle, jump into it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Rwanda, for a lot of people, don't really know what is going on with this program in Rwanda. And this program in Rwanda is basically refugees that get to the UK illegally. If they get to the UK illegally seeking asylum, the UK can repatriate them to Rwanda. And if for any reason and they can't come back. And now this goes against the fundamental rights of human rights of a refugee seeking asylum in another country. It's a fundamental right. The Labour Party, now it's not really sure because the Labour Party look like they're destroying the Conservatives. And if they get in, they said the first thing they're going to do is they're going to scrap it because of what it is.
Yeah.
Moving on, there's so many reasons why I think it's a bad thing. Apart
Yeah.
from the fact that in the UK, the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom said this thing is illegal. So it's actually
Yes.
because it goes against fundamental rights, the Atlantic Charter, which the United Kingdom is signed up for. So it's an unconstitutional law that is breaching fundamental rights.
Yeah, so I want to ask you a question because you're a
So for
lawyer.
England to be, yeah.
You're a lawyer. Are these refugees actually illegal or are they have valid sanctuary? Because I think they're sending people back who have sanctuary and they're letting in people from Ukraine who come in across the border and they don't do that to them. Continue, Kunle. Yeah. Good.
What they call illegal is basically undocumented immigrants that arrive on their shores.
Okay.
Now, if
Okay.
you're arriving in a boat on the shores, you're most likely coming from some country that a first world country has screwed up, either through IMF and World Bank loans, or through bombing, or through funding terror groups, or
Thank you.
counter-terror groups, or
Thank you.
other tribes, wherever in the world you want to
Mhm.
go. You pick that country, and I'll have a story for you as to how the West, the Cold War between the West and Russia have been
Yeah.
used to arm all these crazy people all over the world. Because,
Yes.
I mean, like I've said this before, not the first time, not one single act of terrorism existed in the West from Islam until the start of the Cold War.
Yeah. And then
In Africa,
very quickly, the US funded bin Laden to fight Russia in
yeah,
Afghanistan, and it came back on them. They also funded ISIS and people in Libya and Iraq after their illegal war against Iraq. Thank you. Continue.
yes. In fact, if you notice, ISIS only kills Muslims. They only kill Muslims. A few
Yep.
Christians, but mostly Muslims. They don't touch Jews. They don't
Yep.
touch
And
Israel.
and as an
All
aside,
the
as an aside,
yes,
one
all the
faction of
stuff that's been going on now. Sorry, all
no
the
one
things that have
what
been going on now in
yeah. Go
Gaza.
ahead.
You
Go
would
ahead.
think, based on what the Yemen Houthis are doing, you would assume that if you're a genuine Islamic jihad group and they saw this action against Muslims, that they should be doing terror
Yeah. So I was going to say
all
that. So
over the
what is Saudi
West.
Arabia? They're Shiite or Sunni? Saudi Arabia.
I think they're Sunni. I know that.
Sunni. So the Sunnis are not
I think
helping. Well, anyway, one faction,
the
the people
distinction
in
is more in I know in Iran they're mostly Shiites in Iran.
yeah. So
I
so
don't
the
want to go where I don't know because I'm not
okay. So
close to
here's
this.
what I'm saying:
I think that
Iran, who are Shiites, and Lebanon, they're helping. They're trying their best to help Hamas and to help Israel, not Israel, to help
yeah.
Palestine.
Iran
Um,
has Shiites and Sunnis in it who
yeah,
are
but
opposed
yeah,
to each other.
but Saudi
I'm not
Arabia, I
sure
think
about the
Saudi
rest of the
Arabia is Sunni.
diaspora
Yeah,
what the breakdown is.
but the Sunnis are not. They don't
Yes.
like the Shiites, and that's why they're letting Palestine get slaughtered. They really work for the West, as far as I'm. But continue your point. I appreciate the point that you're
Yeah.
making,
So
which
it's
is
all
that yeah, the point you're making that Islamic forces are actually killing
sorry, you
Islamic
broke up.
people.
I
Yeah,
didn't get what
Islamic.
you just said.
So you were saying that. We'll continue with
Um
what you were saying.
well
Islam. Yeah.
so it goes like this.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Continue. Continue.
Connection has
Continue.
gone again.
Continue. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so as I was saying, these in the Middle East, there's oil, and because of the oil, America and Russia fought for it, and they want to gain control of it. So America arms the Taliban against Russia's own terror group. Sometimes Russia tends to go with the governing powers within the Middle East, arms them against the tyrants or so-called whichever
Yeah.
rebel groups that come up, become out of control because they're insane, and then they get out of control, and then they become a law unto themselves. In Africa, they're doing the same thing, but they're not using Islam. They're using tribe or region, and then they're
Yeah.
using individual politicians to play each other off against each other, creating chaos so that they can milk those countries. Now we are moving from oil to resources, and countries like Congo are countries that have the kind of resources that the 21st century needs. You
Also
know, oil
Nigeria. Nigeria.
was the
Yeah.
energy source of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Yes, so energy needs of the 21st century will be uranium, all the cobalt mines in Congo, and Rwanda is right in that area, just like Israel is right around where all the oil is. Now, another thing, I feel that this is very similar to the Balfour project, what is going on in England, because Rwanda is basically like Australia. Australia, they cast all their undesirables to Australia, and they now became a colony. And whilst the undesirables that they're casting out to Rwanda are not English, after a while, there will be people who identify as white Caucasian Europeans in order to try to gain a foothold. I don't know the deal that the Rwandan government has with the UK, but I'm sure that they're getting paid money to do these
Oh
things
yeah, they are.
and
They
getting
are.
resources or
Yeah.
some kind of favors. Now,
And there's a double standard because
now
they're letting
Rwanda is actually a beautiful country.
go ahead, go ahead. We have a lag, but go ahead. Yeah, yeah. There's a lag in the internet, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Rwanda is actually a beautiful country. Um, yes, yes, it has a beautiful tourism. It also has a history of genocide. It's been
Yeah.
genocided. In fact, I have relatives that were part of, the Hutus and the Tutsis. There was all of that craziness going on in that region. So it's good to see that they've come through their genocide, but they're now being a risk of becoming a satellite state, bang slap in the middle of the area of the kind of resources that the West needs for the 21st century. And and then there's Kenya with Shaban. Notice how many terrorist incidents happen in Kenya, because Kenya is closely linked to the West. You see so many foreigners
Yeah,
in
and it's
Kenya,
also in Eastern Africa.
more than
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yes, it's like the West's favorite safari tour
Yeah.
destination. So they have their claws into Africa. They have their claws into Middle East under this false narrative of claiming security, as if there's African bases and ships surrounding the English Channel or sailing up the Atlantic Sea to
No,
guarantee their own security against a more powerful aggressor.
no.
And then you have another way where they're telling their population that the population are getting the impression that, oh, why are you bringing all these foreigners? And they don't know that it's their government that's causing it. Why are you bringing all these foreigners? Why can't we stop them in the English Channel? And then my question to them is, why is your navy in the Black Sea? How is that security
Yeah.
for England? England is nowhere near the Black
Yeah.
Sea. What are
So
you doing
Kunle,
there? Killing
there's
people
a sim
in their own, so there's a lot of, it's a
yeah.
repetition of what is going on in Gaza. Rwanda
Yeah, and
could be
it's
the
similar.
next Israel.
Yeah, and there's a similar problem in the South America where people from Venezuela and Ecuador are coming into the US and Mexico, and it's based on US policies which cause troubles in those countries. So what we're saying is that the empire, which is Britain and the US, is doing the same systematic rubbish. And now they want to send people to Rwanda as refugees. I'm sure those guys are going to be educated and trained in such a way that helps the West continue its fight for resources such as cobalt and those things. What do you think, Kunle? Yeah.
Well, I think it's very suspicious because there's only about 30 to 50,000 of these illegals that are actually going to be going to Rwanda. It's not like it's millions
I
of
think
them.
they're agents. I think they're
Most
agents. Yeah.
They're a
Go
tiny
ahead. Go ahead.
number. They're a tiny number.
Yeah.
There's hardly any of them. You see, the main immigration problem in England isn't those 30 to 50,000 people that are coming over the boats. They
It's
can't
the
even barely
Ukrainians.
fit a League Division
It's
One
Ukraine.
football
It's
stadium.
Ukraine. It's Ukraine. Yeah. Ukrainians are going
No,
into England,
no,
and
no, no. It's not the Ukrainians. They're keeping the Ukrainians. They're not rejecting the Ukrainians.
yeah, that's what I
It's
mean.
the
But they're
Syrians. It's mostly the
oh,
Syrians
Syrians. So it's the
and
Middle
the
Eastern
Africans
problem.
traveling through Libya.
Yeah. So it's the problem, and yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. But the hypocrisy is that
It's the brown refugees. They're not rejecting the white refugees.
yeah, but the thing is that a lot of white refugees have come there too. More than 2 million or 3 million Ukrainians have fled into Europe, and they're being
They're
accepted.
welcome.
But the Africans are not welcome. So that's my point.
They're
Continue.
not a
Thank you.
problem. England isn't complaining about the Ukrainian refugees.
Yeah. And
They're not complaining about it. The Ukrainian refugees are coming over undocumented. They're being processed, and not a single one is being sent to Rwanda. No, this is not. Those are white.
And then the question is
European
why?
refugees. Those ones are not the problem.
So the question is
Now,
why?
the thing is, 700,000. There's 700,000 legal immigrants coming into the UK. 700,000. So for every one boat person, there's about 20. There's about 20 legal immigrants coming in, and it's the legal immigrants that are creating a different atmosphere that is causing the indigenous Brit to feel that they're being invaded, which is basically they're paying for the sins of their government that did the invading.
Yes.
So it's now creating a polarization of a new wave of far right racism, which is feeding a completely different evil within Western Europe.
Yeah.
Western Europe has always been playing itself as the good guys, and suddenly from nowhere they become the bad guys. But it is the governments, not the people. I keep telling people this. When people talk about reparations, they're not talking about reparations from the white guy on the street. They're talking about the government, because it's the government that created all these illegal Jim Crow, apartheid, colonial laws. It's the same British government. Did you know that the British government only finished paying off interest on monies that were owed to descendants of slave traders for letting go of their slaves? They only finished making the interest payments in 2015. When people say that slavery happened a long time ago, why are they paying off the interest on the money that they owe descendants of slave traders, and they just
So they
finished
haven't even
paying it
paid.
in
They haven't even paid
2015?
the principal. Yeah.
Yes, and when they talk about slavery, all these racist people that talk about slavery get over it. They always ignore civil rights, apartheid, Jim Crow, and colonial. They're all the same thing. They're all born of slavery. They say, oh yeah, but the Romans did slavery, blah, blah, blah. The Romans don't exist. They now mention Barbary pirates because they go into all these random claims. Barbary pirates don't exist. They were not a government.
Nope.
The governments that carried out these atrocities are still in power and still in force and are still running the same philosophies today, and they haven't addressed their issue. South Africa has gone further to address this issue better than America has. America hasn't started. South Africa has at least started to try to have a reconciliation and recognition of these things. The Brits don't even want to return our stolen stuff back.
The difference
are Benin art bronzes.
Yeah. So Kunle, the difference is that South Africa is a majority black nation. The US is not. So, and this is my argument, which is why I pray in the next South African elections or in the future, because it won't happen this time, they never have white leadership. I'm not racist, but until history corrects itself and white people prove that they're not I don't want to use a barbarian, but until they prove that they're not colonial and imperial forces, we can't have them ruling our countries, because they will change our laws and our constitutions, and they will not make reparations. Yeah.
Israel has shown that a minority can take over a majority.
Yeah, because they have money from the US. They have money from the US for weapons. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Yes, they have money from the US. I think I was discussing with my mom. My mom was saying that, oh, it's because the Jews have all the money. And then I was trying to explain that it's more complicated than even that, because the Jews are actually against what's going on. It's not the Jews that are the problem. The Jews are actually on the right side of history. And the silly word Semite, Arabs are Semites. All the Arabs are Semites. So how can you be anti-Semitic to yourself. So when you're saying free Palestine, you're saying free the Semites. So it cannot be anti-Semitic by
No,
definition.
and
It doesn't make sense.
It's anti-Zion. I'm not going to say whether, I don't know if I'm anti-Zionist or not, but Zionism is not a racial movement. It's a political movement, and it's a white settler movement. And anti-Zionism is anti-Zionism is an attack against racism. Continue, thank you. And
Jesus
colonialism.
was a Palestinian. Yes, Jesus was a Palestinian Jew.
Yeah.
He was a Palestinian Jew. And now you have white European Zionists killing Semites in the Middle East. And if you complain that these white Christian Zionists are killing Semites, they're being anti-Semitic.
Yeah, and
make it make sense.
That's the irony. You know what that is?
That doesn't make any sense.
That's the same
white
type
Christian Zionists are above reproach. They are above the law. In US law, if you criticize Israel, you've committed an anti-Semitic act, and it's criminal offense.
That's a fascist.
This absurd law was made earlier this year. It's just a few months old.
Yeah.
Yes, they're trying to ban TikTok for the same reason, and they're saying security. I mean, they already have our data. What security are they talking about?
Don't mind them.
Security.
Don't mind them.
It's a threat.
They're trying to get rid of TikTok
because threat.
Yeah, they're trying to get rid of TikTok because TikTok is showing Americans what Israel is doing to Palestinian children and is beginning to turn the tide. And Biden is in big trouble. So we have to leave soon, but we're going to continue. Give us 2 or 3 more minutes of your last thoughts, Kunle. And I won't jump in front. This is less chaos than political whatever. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I've noticed in the last 48 hours, I'm having a bit of fun seeing about the new movement to block all the famous people that haven't spoken out in respect of
I saw that today.
So people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, yes, and it's catching on. And I've actually got a meter, and you can actually see them losing their fans, and you must actually block them, not unfollow them. It's not enough. You must actually block them.
Yes,
and that's actually what happens to hurt them.
And this is what I call.
That's interesting because practice.
Go ahead.
So this is what I call the elections.
Yeah. So this is what I call the proper way to protest. When you protest, you have to cause pain, but you don't want to do it through terrorism. Do it through money. Block these guys. Make them lose money and make them get their asses correct. Thank you. Continue, Kunle. Yeah.
Yes, I think also when you in America, when you go and attack students, that's the worst thing. I don't know why they keep making that same mistake. Why do they keep thinking that if they use force and violence in a democratic state to suppress protesting students on their own campus,
Kunle, here's the answer.
It's never worked.
Kunle, here's the answer. Kunle, here's the answer. Kunle, here's the answer. The U.S. is not a democratic country. It's an imperial country, and when it's forced to, it becomes fascist because fascism is a symptom of imperialism. Continue. Yeah.
Yeah. The system can actually vote these people out. It can actually vote them out. It's possible. For it to start, there's first the democratic movement to remove AIPAC. Anyone sponsored by AIPAC needs to start. I understand that there's actually 15 Republicans that are not sponsored by AIPAC as well. So they need to come together as well. They need to coordinate the opposition against AIPAC. They need to focus on AIPAC, and it's not about by two-party state right now. Two-party state is, I want to do taxes and capital and focus on that, or I want social works. That's what it's supposed to be about. Democrat and Republican, conservative and Labour. That's what the politics is supposed to be about. But what is going on here is that the country is being controlled by one group. So you're making the same choice. You don't have a choice. Yes, and if you don't have a choice, you don't have a democracy.
So my argument is that there needs to be a third arm of government. The third arm of government needs to be the people who protect the Constitution and change it. So I'll let you finish in 2 minutes because I have to go to work. But we're going to continue this. We're going to do this over 3 or 4 weeks. Finish off, Kunle. Thank you.
Yeah, the arm of government, the thing I believe is that American people, the actual American people, are intrinsically good, decent people. Whether or not they're governments of minorities and rich individuals
and I agree.
Bastardizing it. That is why, despite the slaughter, there aren't any terrorist acts in the West. Because, in fact, they know that their governments are against them. So no, you're not going to see any terror. Nobody's going to bomb a plane and say, stop bombing Gaza. So they're doing the right thing and they're fighting the fight in the correct way. vote the bastards out. That's what you do. Don't use
Yeah.
violence. Don't use any. Just vote them out.
Vote
And
them
that's
out.
what America, I think,
Thank you.
is
Also,
going to do. I
Kule,
think they're going to focus on that.
so I'm gonna say agree with you. I'm gonna end, but vote them out and also block and sabotage the economic system that's supporting Israel and AIPAC by blocking people, by not buying products, and also by putting sanctions on them. So Kule, thank you. I'm going to let you finish again for 1 minute because I know you love to talk. So give us another minute and then we're out of here. Yeah.
Well, it's rumored. It's rumored. One of the rumors about Kennedy's death was that he wanted to designate AIPAC and all these other pressure groups as foreign entities, and there's a suspicion that he was killed for it. So need I not say more? The
Yeah,
conspiracy theorists will be having a field day.
I'll say don't say
A
more
lot of
because
conspiracy around.
don't say more because my Android has American CIA on it. Okay, so Kule, I hate to cut this short. Thank you very much. And I took your feedback about how we can have better interflow. So this was good. But we're going to be back next week because later in the week we have Formula One. But we'll be back next week to continue where you ended. Thank you very much. Also, you look young. Did you cut your hair?
Fantastic.
You cut your hair again?
I've started a water fast, so I'm not.
Okay, you look good.
I'm not drinking any alcohol or eating any food for a few days. So
okay, so you look good.
My system.
You look good, and we're going to be together in August.
Thank you.
I'm coming for your birthday, and we're going to have shows again. Thank you, and we'll continue this next week. Thank you.
Oh, I'm planning. It's going to be a show.
Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you, guys.